Hello my friend, here's a story about the quote by an ancient Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu. He who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. In a serene village nestled in the mountains, there lived a revered spiritual teacher named Gong. He was known far and wide for his wisdom and calm demeanor. People from various walks of life traveled great distances to seek his guidance and learn from his teachings. One sunny afternoon, a young seeker named Don arrived at the village. He was eager to gain knowledge and share his own insights. Don had spent years studying various philosophies and was proud of the understanding he had amassed. He approached Gong with great enthusiasm and said, "Master Gong, I have read countless books and attended many lectures. I believe I have gathered a vast amount of knowledge. I wish to discuss these ideas with you and hear your thoughts." Gong smiled gently and invited Don to sit with him by a tranquil pond. The water was clear, reflecting the sky and the surrounding trees. "Tell me, Don," Gong said softly, "what have you learned?" Don began to speak passionately, sharing his interpretations of ancient texts, his thoughts on the nature of existence, and his theories about the universe. He spoke for hours, barely pausing for breath. Gong listened patiently, his expression serene and attentive. When Don finally paused, Gong looked at him and said, "He who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know." Don was taken aback. "But Master, how can this be? I have spent years acquiring this knowledge. Surely, sharing it is important." Gong nodded. "Knowledge is valuable, but true wisdom lies in understanding its depth. Words are limited, they can only point to the truth, not encompass it. When one truly knows, there is a realization that some truths are beyond verbal expression. Silence often holds more meaning than words." Don reflected on Gong's words. He realized that his eagerness to speak had overshadowed his ability to listen and understand deeply. He had been so focused on expressing what he knew that he had not truly absorbed the essence of the wisdom he sought. Gong continued, "Wisdom is not in the accumulation of knowledge but in the understanding of its limitations. It is in the quiet moments of introspection, in the silence where the mind can settle and see clearly." From that day forward, Don practiced silence and deep listening. He spent more time in contemplation and less in speaking. As he did, he began to notice the subtler aspects of life, and the profound truth that lay beyond words. Don's transformation did not go unnoticed. The villagers saw a change in him, a calmness and depth that had not been there before. They began to seek his presence, not for what he could say, but for the peace that radiated from him. One day, a group of villagers approached Don with a complex problem. They spoke at length, each offering their opinions and suggestions, but the discussion seemed to go in circles without reaching a solution. They turned to Don, expecting him to provide an answer. Don listened quietly, his eyes closed in deep thought. After a long pause, he simply smiled and said, "Let us sit in silence for a while and see what emerges." The villagers were puzzled but trusted Don's guidance. They sat together in silence by the same tranquil pond where Don had first spoken with Gong. As the minutes passed, the tension in the air began to dissipate. The villagers felt a sense of clarity and calmness wash over them. After a while, one of the villagers spoke up, "I think I understand now. The answer is not in arguing over details but in coming together with a shared understanding." Don nodded, his smile serene. Sometimes, The most profound solutions come from within, when we allow ourselves the space to see clearly. The villagers left with a newfound sense of unity and purpose. Don's silent wisdom had guided them to a solution without a single word of instruction. Years passed, and Don continued to live a life of quiet contemplation and profound insight. He became a beacon of wisdom for all who knew him, embodying the essence of the teaching that had changed his life: he who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. One day, a young traveler arrived in the village, eager to learn from the now legendary Don. The traveler, much like Don in his youth, was eager to share his knowledge and engage in deep discussions. Don welcomed the traveler and listened to him speak with the same patience and serenity that Gong had shown him. When the traveler finally paused, Don repeated the words that had once been spoken to him: he who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. The traveler looked puzzled, just as Don had been years before. Don smiled and invited him to sit by the tranquil pond. "Let us spend some time in silence, and you may come to understand." As they sat together in silence, the traveler began to sense the depth of Don's wisdom. He realized that true understanding lay not in speaking but in being present, in listening deeply, and in allowing the mind to settle into a state of quiet clarity. And so, the cycle of wisdom continued, passed down through the generations, not through words, but through the profound silence that held the essence of truth. Thank you for listening to my story.